mercy, right? A lot of times we go in with this anger and, yes, you know, we have to defend Islam. That's not how, did the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, is that how he talked to people about Islam? Is it? I don't even know any time, in any relation, any sort of that the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam talked in that way that many of us talk about Islam, or try to defend the Prophet, peace be upon him. The way we try to defend the Prophet, peace be upon him, is not the way that the man himself spoke. Right? So we have to try to emulate the very thing that we're trying to defend, and you know, we need to follow the Prophet, peace be upon him, and not speak in a defensive way, speak in a nice way, come from a perspective of mercy, rahmah, right? What do we say? The names of Allah that we say the most. What are the names of Allah that we say the most? Rahman ar-Rahim, right? Compassionate, mercy, right? So why don't we try to emulate those things that we're saying? I mean, they're emphasized for a reason, right? So let's come from that perspective. It's very important, the perspective you come from. Because if you come from that perspective, a lot of the other stuff follows. Okay? You come from a perspective of anger and defensive, and being defensive and whatnot, and a lot of the bad stuff will follow. Okay? And you won't have the effect that you want. You may feel okay at the end. Get that off my chest. All right. I wanted to get somebody, you know, short of hitting them, you know, I wanted to just get this off my chest, right? You know, that's what's happening here. You saw somebody on TV, and you said, I can't believe that person would speak like that about Islam, right? That's not the person you're talking to. Okay? So let's remember, you know, that's the way that we should come off, inshallah. Be open, don't be defensive. Now, it's very important when we're having this conversation, again, how our demeanor is, not just the perspective we're coming from, not being defensive. We should be open, we should invite questions, right? So even in our interactions if we're at school with others, and you know, we should be known as being open to you being able to ask me a question, okay? Like I should be very open to that. Not if somebody asks me a question, I shut them down. You know, I should be very open to it. So let me give you an example. Like I went to a boarding school for my high school, okay, in Florida. I didn't grow up in Michigan actually, you know, but I went to boarding school in Florida. My parents were in Saudi Arabia at the time. My parents didn't send me because I was bad or anything of the sort. There was no American school in Saudi Arabia past 9th grade, so I went to boarding school. I was the only Muslim there, effectively, in that entire school. So you can imagine, in boarding school, you're with people of other faiths, non-Muslims, for 24/7, all the time. It's not like you go to school and you can come back and that's it. 24/7, you're always with them. Now, so of course, you know, you have decisions to make and whatnot, and you follow your faith and you do what you have to do. Of course, you know, I prayed and I fasted, I did all these things. What do you think is going to happen? People are going to ask you questions. Okay? The first day I got there, it was a study hall. We had study hall, you sat in the rooms, you opened your door, and you studied. You know, everybody, they had monitors that would come up and down the halls. So you studied in your own room. And it was Maghrib time, so it's time to study, to pray. So I told my roommate, I said, you know, hey, I'm going to pray. This is, you know, what I do when I pray. I can't talk to anybody. Nobody can walk in front of me. You know, I told him the basic things. And he said, well, okay, you know, that's fine. I started praying. So first day of study hall and whatnot, so of course the students start coming out and they start peeking in to see who's, you know, in the other rooms and whatnot to meet them. And every time somebody would come in, he'd say, shh, and he'd call them in, right? And then by the time I was done praying Maghrib, there was probably 20 to 30 guys, you know, standing like right there, you know, waiting for me. And they wouldn't speak to me. They wouldn't speak until I finished. After I was done, they're like, where's your idol? You know, what is that? Like, what are you doing? You know, like all these types of questions, right? No, I could have reacted and said, you know, what the heck? Get out of here. You know, leave me alone, right? I could have said that. But I said, I have no problem, because you should view this as an opportunity. That's the point. And that's how I viewed it. And I talked to all of them. And I can say, alhamdulillah, by the time I left that boarding school, that every single person in that school, you know, in my boarding school, knew about Islam, or knew about what a Muslim does, you know, in terms of practicing. They knew about fasting, they knew about praying, they knew what, you know, Allah was, they knew about Tawheed, all these things, right? Not because there's anything special about me, like going and like affirmatively telling them, because they would always be asking questions. They knew they could ask me a question, right? So that's the point. Be open, you know, be open to questions. And the next point about that is to be confident. that this can be difficult. It's going to be difficult in school. Maybe you're the only Muslim, or there's others that are around you. It may seem embarrassing that you have to pray in this way. It may seem embarrassing that you're not eating or something of the sort, right? So here's the point. That obviously is a bigger thing. I mean, we have to be confident. We have to know with truth that this is the faith of God, right? We have to be confident that this is our faith and that this is the way that we live and this is the best way, right? Not thinking that we're better than others, but that this is the best way that we follow. We have to be confident about it. If you're not confident in your own faith, how do you expect somebody else to be confident in it? Now, how do you expect somebody else not to poke fun at it? Right? You understand what I'm saying? So be confident. Don't be overconfident. Be confident. Okay? And that's the next point. Is don't be arrogant. Okay? Don't be arrogant. In Surah Al-Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says,
ولا تصعر
لا تصعر خدك للناس ولا تصعر خدك للناس ولا تمشي في الأرض مرحا إن الله لا يحب كل مختال فخور. Like don't puff out your cheek at people, right? ولا تصعر خدك للناس man. ولا تمشي في الأرض مرحا, like don't walk, like all proud, like basically like a donkey, that's what it said. إن الله لا يحب كل مختال فخور. So basically, look. It's saying, don't be prideful, don't be, arrogant, don't be, thinking, that you're all that. That's basically it, right? So being confident, in your faith and being confident in who you are, that's very important. But don't think you're better than somebody, right? You don't know. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So you follow, what you follow, and be confident in it. Don't let somebody, make fun of you, for not eating pork or these kinds of things. Say, that's fine. I don't want to eat it. You can eat it. That's cool. I don't eat it. And if they make fun of this, be confident about it. But don't think you're better than somebody, right? Because it can happen to anybody. That you can slip, you can make a mistake. Maybe they don't know. Because it comes off. If you're coming off like you're much better than them, if you're coming off like you're arrogant and whatnot, that's going to come through in your conversation with them. Okay? So that's very important. Now, how do you handle people? The Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was amongst the best listeners. Okay? This is another important thing, to listen. Okay? And especially in your one-on-one conversations and when you're talking to somebody, is to actually be able to listen. Many of us know how to speak, but we don't know how to listen. Okay? We know how to hear, because it's obviously with ears, but we don't know how to listen. Okay? And the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, when he spoke to somebody, he actually faced them. Where you would actually face them towards them, right? That's actually a technique that they talk about even nowadays, in terms of when you're speaking. Like, think about it. If I'm speaking to you, kind of like, what does that show? It shows I'm not interested in you, right? So that's a very important thing, to have this connection with the person. So, be a good listener. Face them. Talk to them, head on. It's part of not being defensive, actually. It's very hard sometimes when they're saying something, yeah, that's very funny, and just walk off. Just confidently, listen to them, face them, and smile. The Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he smiled. He was known to smile. Smiling is a charity in Islam anyways, but we don't do enough of it. Unfortunately, a lot of times, Muslim speakers will get up, and because they're defensive, probably, because they're more natural, they probably do smile, but they're in these settings, or they're talking about Islam, and they're... Do you see the effect that has? Right? Already you've said a million words. By not smiling, you've confirmed all these stereotypes. These bearded Muslim men. Like they're just, they're evil, they're mean-spirited, they never smile, right? That's the conception they have of us, right? So, first of all, we should just naturally